In the quiet suburbs of a small American town, nestled among rows of maple trees, stood a modest yet warmly inviting foster home known as Willowcrest House. After a night's sleep, Sarah woke up to find herself here, in this foster home, a decision made by her mother. It was a confusing decision. Sarah's green eyes, big and expressive, scanned her new surroundings with a mix of fear and curiosity. At 5 years old, she was painfully shy, clutching the hem of her faded pink dress as the door to the foster home swung open. A middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a reassuring smile greeted her. "Hello, Sarah. I'm Mrs. Thompson, the caretaker here at Willowcrest," she said, bending down to Sarah's level. Her voice was soft, the kind that seemed to wrap around you like a warm blanket. Stepping inside, Sarah was overwhelmed by the sudden cacophony of children's laughter and chatter echoing through the hallways. The home was alive with kids of all ages, each busy with their toys or books. The walls were lined with colorful paintings and photographs of smiling children, some of whom Sarah guessed had probably moved on to other places. Mrs. Thompson led Sarah through the bustling common room to a quieter hallway, pointing to a small room with a window overlooking the backyard. "This will be your room, Sarah. I know it's all very new, but you'll make friends in no time." As Mrs. Thompson left to attend to a ruckus in another part of the house, Sarah hesitated at the threshold of her new room. It was small, with walls painted a soft peach and 2 twin beds. One was clearly occupied, covered in comic books and a scattered array of action figures. The other bed, with its clean, tucked-in sheets and a fluffy pillow, awaited her. Later that evening, dinner was a noisy affair. Sarah sat quietly at a large table filled with children, feeling like a small boat lost at sea amidst the storm of conversations. She poked at her food, her mind wandering back to her mother, her warm smile, and the way she used to tuck Sarah in at night. "Why so quiet?" a voice jolted Sarah from her thoughts. It belonged to a boy with messy blonde hair and a mischievous grin. "I'm Jack," he said, sliding into the seat next to hers. "You're the new girl, right?" Sarah nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Sarah. Well, Sarah, you'll like it here. We play games after dinner, and you can join my team if you want," Jack offered, his eyes sparkling with an unspoken challenge. Sarah found herself slowly adapting to the rhythms of life at Willowcrest. Jack became her steadfast friend, their bond forged through shared adventures and whispered secrets under the stars. Despite the noise and chaos of a house full of children, Sarah often felt a pang of loneliness, a silent ache for the mother who had promised to come back for her one day. With each passing day, Sarah learned to laugh and play, but the shadow of her mother's absence lingered. As autumn approached, bringing with it the promise of new beginnings, the leaves began to turn, painting the world outside Willowcrest House in hues of gold and crimson. One chilly October afternoon, while the children were scattered across the yard wrapped in their warm jackets, Sarah noticed a group of older kids huddled by the far fence. Their voices, laced with malice, drew her closer. At the center of the circle was Jack, his back against the fence, face flushed with a mix of anger and helplessness. "Why don't you just go back where you came from, Jack?" taunted a tall boy with a sneer. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she approached the group. Jack caught her eye, his expression a mix of surprise and worry, silently pleading with her not to intervene. But Sarah couldn't just stand by. Gathering her courage, she pushed her way through the crowd until she was standing beside Jack. "Leave him alone." Sarah's voice, stronger than she felt, cut through the chilly air. The bullies, taken aback by her boldness, paused. "And what are you going to do about it?" the tall boy scoffed, turning his attention towards Sarah. "Mrs. Thompson will hear about this," Sarah retorted confidently, though her insides churned with nervous energy. "And maybe your parents too, next time they visit." The mention of adults and the consequences that might follow was enough to dampen the bullies' enthusiasm. With a mix of grumbles and rolling eyes, they dispersed, leaving Sarah and Jack alone under the sprawling branches of the nearby oak tree. "Thanks," Jack muttered, scuffing his shoe against the dirt. "You didn't have to do that, though. They're just a bunch of jerks." But I wanted to, Sarah replied, feeling her cheeks warm with a mix of embarrassment and pride. You would have done the same for me, right? Jack nodded, a small smile breaking through his initial embarrassment. Yeah, I guess I would. From that day forward, their friendship took on a new depth, marked by mutual respect and protective loyalty. They talked about everything from their favorite superheroes to their deepest fears about never finding a forever home. One evening, as they sat tucked away in a quiet nook of the library with a comic book spread between them, Jack turned to Sarah and said, "You know, you're like the superhero in these stories to me. You always show up at the right time." Sarah laughed, a light, tinkling sound that filled the small space. "And you're my trusty sidekick, then. Every hero needs one." The emotional security that their friendship provided was transformative. It gave Sarah a sense of belonging that she hadn't felt since her mother's departure. For Jack, it offered stability and a sense of being understood that he had long craved. Winter had cast a frosty spell over the town, the chill biting through even the thickest of coats. Inside the warm walls of Willowcrest House, Sarah and Jack sat curled up near the fireplace, a pile of college brochures spread out before them. It was a time of year when thoughts of the future seemed particularly poignant. Jack picked up a brochure from the stack, his eyes scanning over the bright pictures and bold text promising a world of opportunities. "Look at this place, Sarah," he said, pointing to a picture of a sprawling campus adorned with autumn leaves. "They have an amazing engineering program." Sarah leaned over to take a closer look. "It does look amazing," she replied. "Do you think we could really go to a place like that?" "Why not?" Jack looked at her, his expression serious. "We're as smart as anyone else there. Just because we're from Willowcrest doesn't mean we can't dream big, right?" Sarah nodded, feeling a surge of hope fueled by Jack's confidence. "I want to study psychology," she said, her voice growing firmer with resolve. "I want to help kids who are like us, you know? Kids who don't have anyone else." "That sounds perfect for you," Jack smiled, bumping her shoulder lightly with his. "You've always been the one who understands everyone here. You'll be great at that." As the fire crackled, their conversation drifted to dreams of the future, of college life, of careers that felt light years away from their current reality. They talked about the cities they wanted to visit, the kinds of houses they'd live in, and even the pets they would have. Their planning was interrupted by Mrs. Thompson, who called them over to help decorate the house for the upcoming holiday festivities. As they hung garlands and set up the Christmas tree, their conversation shifted to more immediate concerns: the holiday play at school, the gifts they hoped to receive, and the festive meals they would share. But the seeds of their future plans had been firmly planted. Later that night, as Sarah lay in bed staring up at the ceiling of her room, she felt a fire of determination kindling within her. The conversations with Jack had not just been idle dreams, they were a blueprint of the life she vowed to make a reality. She thought about her mother, about the pain of abandonment, but also about the resilience she had been forced to develop. Those experiences, she realized, were not just scars, but also strengths. They had taught her empathy, resilience, and the value of dreaming big, qualities she would need in the challenging years ahead. In her heart, Sarah made a promise to herself. No matter where her journey took her, she would strive to make a difference, not just in her own life, but in the lives of others who felt lost, alone, or forgotten. She would build a future that was bright, not just for herself, but for all the Sarahs and Jacks who would come after her, those who needed someone to understand, to guide, and to believe in them. Autumn had returned, painting the campus of Northern State University in brilliant shades of red and gold. Sarah stood beneath the towering oak trees, their leaves whispering secrets of a new beginning. She had made it. She was now a college student, her dreams fueled by years of hope and hard work. As she walked along the bustling paths lined with ancient brick buildings, Sarah felt a surge of excitement mixed with a twinge of nervousness. Her backpack was heavy with textbooks on psychology, her chosen field of study. She was eager to dive into the complexities of the human mind, driven by a desire to understand and perhaps heal the emotional wounds of others like her. In her first week, Sarah attended her introduction to psychology class, where Professor Wilson, a renowned psychologist known for his research on childhood trauma, captivated her with tales of resilience and recovery. Sarah's hand shot up frequently, her questions thoughtful and her notes meticulous. It wasn't long before she caught the professor's attention. "Ms. Harper, your insights are quite profound. Have you considered joining our research team?" Professor Wilson approached her after class one day, his eyes kind and encouraging. Sarah's heart leapt at the opportunity. "I would love to, Professor. I've always wanted to make a difference, especially for children who have faced adversity." Thus began Sarah's journey into the world of academic research. She immersed herself in studies, participated in group projects, and helped design experiments that explored effective therapies for traumatized children. Her dedication and keen intellect did not go unnoticed. Within a year, she received the Undergraduate Research Award, a testament to her hard work and innovation in psychological research. Celebrating this achievement, Sarah called Jack one evening, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Jack, you won't believe it. I just got the research award." On the other end of the line, Jack's voice was warm and proud. "Sarah, that's amazing. I always knew you'd do great things. You're making a real impact, aren't you?" "I hope so," Sarah replied, her words tinged with humility. "But I couldn't have done it without all the support from you and everyone back at Willowcrest. It's like we're all part of this." As the semester progressed, Sarah didn't just excel academically, she also found her social niche. She joined the psychology club, where she organized events and workshops for students and local community members. Her efforts to bridge academic knowledge with real-world applications were highly praised, further establishing her reputation as a leader among her peers. The highlight of her college life came when she was invited to speak at the National Conference on Child Psychology in her junior year. Standing on the stage, Sarah spoke eloquently about the importance of early intervention and community support for children facing psychological challenges. The audience was moved by her passion and clarity, resulting in a standing ovation and invitations to collaborate with other researchers and practitioners. After the conference, Sarah and Jack met up during the winter break at their favorite cafe back home. They sat by the window, watching the snow gently fall, cups of hot chocolate warming their hands. "So, tell me everything," Jack urged, his eyes gleaming with interest. "How does it feel to be a rising star in psychology?" Sarah laughed, shaking her head. "I don't know about being a star, but it feels good to be involved in something so meaningful. Every day I learn something new, and it feels like I'm really contributing to something bigger than myself." Jack nodded, his expression serious but supportive. "You always had that spark, Sarah. You're going to change the world, I'm sure of it." The sun shone brightly over the university campus, its beams reflecting off the windows of the grand auditorium where Sarah's graduation ceremony was taking place. Dressed in her cap and gown, Sarah sat among her peers, her heart swelling with a cocktail of pride, excitement, and a touch of nervous anticipation about the future. As her name was called, she walked across the stage with confident strides, her smile wide as she accepted her diploma. The applause was like music, fueling her sense of achievement. Jack, who had graduated a semester earlier due to his advanced courses, cheered the loudest from the audience, capturing the moment on his camera. After the ceremony, amidst the flurry of congratulations and farewell hugs, Sarah felt a bittersweet pang. College had been a safe haven, a place of growth and discovery, but it was time to step into a larger world. With her degree in psychology, she was ready to start her career as a counselor, eager to make a real difference in people's lives. Months later, Sarah was immersed in her work at a community counseling center in the city. Her reputation as an empathetic and effective counselor grew, and so did her satisfaction in her work. She had a natural talent for connecting with her clients, helping them navigate their own difficult journeys through her sessions. One late autumn evening, as Sarah organized her office, she stumbled upon an old photo album that her foster mother had sent her after clearing out an old storage box at Willowcrest. Flipping through it, she paused at a photograph of a man holding a small child. It was her, unmistakably, cradled in the arms of a man she didn't recognize. The back of the photo was dated and scribbled with a note, "Sarah's 3rd birthday with Daddy." The discovery sent a jolt through her. All her life, Sarah had believed her father was out of the picture long before she could even remember. Mrs. Thompson had always been vague about her parents, and Sarah had stopped asking questions as she grew older. But now, with tangible evidence of a past she had never known, her curiosity was reignited. Determined to learn more, Sarah began a quest to find the man in the photograph. Her search led her to public records, old newspapers, and eventually, social media. But each lead fizzled out, the trail going cold before it ever really warmed up. The man seemed to have vanished without a trace, and with each dead end, Sarah's hope dwindled. Frustrated and disheartened, Sarah decided to visit Willowcrest one last time, hoping that Mrs. Thompson might remember something, anything, that could help. But the visit only confirmed the harsh truth. The man in the photo had left shortly after it was taken, and there had been no contact since. Sitting in her car outside the familiar, now slightly dilapidated walls of Willowcrest House, Sarah felt a deep, aching sense of loss. Not just for the father she never knew, but for the part of her identity that seemed forever out of reach. For days, Sarah wrestled with her emotions, her work suffering as a result. But it was during a session with a young boy struggling with abandonment that Sarah found the strength to put her own unresolved feelings into perspective. Listening to the boy's fears, she found herself imparting words of comfort that she realized she needed to hear herself. "It's okay to feel lost," she told him gently. "Sometimes, not all questions get answers. But remember, what matters most is the person you become, not the pieces you feel you're missing." A special evening, it was the eve of her 25th birthday, a milestone she had been both dreading and anticipating in light of recent events. Jack had been her rock throughout the tumultuous journey of her search, and tonight, he had insisted on celebrating her birthday. Jack arrived at Sarah's apartment with a mischievous grin and a mysterious large box in his hands. Sarah, still emotionally tender from her trip, greeted him with a hesitant smile. "What's all this?" she asked, eyeing the box curiously. "You'll see." "But first, dinner," Jack announced, ushering her towards the door. "We're going out." The city had a different feel at night, alive and vibrant, full of possibilities. They walked through the bustling streets to a small, intimate restaurant that Sarah loved, but seldom visited. The place was subtly decorated with delicate lights, and soft music played in the background, creating a perfect, cozy ambience for the evening. As they settled into their seats, Jack's demeanor showed a blend of excitement and nervousness. Sarah noticed, but decided to wait for him to reveal his plans at his own pace. They enjoyed a meal filled with light conversation, laughter, and reminiscences of their years of friendship, from their days at the foster home to navigating the complexities of university and adulthood. After dessert, Jack leaned back in his chair, his gaze fixed on Sarah with an intensity that made her heart beat faster. "Sarah, do you remember when we used to talk about where we'd be when we were 25? He asked. "Yes," Sarah replied, her stomach fluttering with a mix of nerves and anticipation. "We had so many plans." "We did," Jack agreed, reaching across the table to take her hand. "And look at us now. You're doing amazing things, Sarah. I've always admired that about you, your strength, your compassion, your ability to turn tough situations into something positive." Sarah felt a warmth spread through her as Jack's words washed over her. It was a comfort, the familiarity of his encouragement, his belief in her. "Thank you, Jack. That means a lot coming from you," she said, squeezing his hand. The evening after Sarah's birthday dinner was still young, the city lights casting a soft glow through the windows of the romantic restaurant where Jack had planned the second part of their celebration. As they left the small restaurant where they had dinner, Jack led Sarah to another venue, a stunningly decorated cafe that she recognized as one of the city's finer establishments, usually reserved for special occasions. Sarah looked at Jack, puzzled. "Jack, what's all this?" she asked, her eyes wide as she took in the beautiful setup. Candles flickered on every table, casting warm lights that danced across the polished surfaces, and soft music played in the background, enveloping them in a serene cocoon. Jack smiled, a hint of nerves mixed with excitement in his eyes. "I wanted this night to be memorable, Sarah. There's something important I need to ask you," he said, guiding her to a secluded table that overlooked the city skyline. As they sat down, a waiter approached with 2 glasses of champagne and a small plate of exquisite desserts. The atmosphere was charged with a palpable sense of anticipation. Sarah's heart raced with excitement and a touch of nervousness. She sensed the gravity of what was coming but could hardly believe it was real. Jack took a deep breath and reached across the table, taking Sarah's hands in his. He gazed into her eyes, and the world around them seemed to slow down. "Sarah, from the moment we met, you've been my closest friend, my confidant, and the one person who truly understands me," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "We've been through so much together, and through it all, my feelings for you have only grown stronger." Sarah felt a lump form in her throat as she listened, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She squeezed his hands, encouraging him to continue. "Today, on your birthday, in front of the entire world, or at least, it feels like it, I want to ask you something very important," Jack continued, his voice now a whisper. He paused, reaching into his jacket pocket to retrieve a small, velvet box. He opened it to reveal a beautiful diamond ring that sparkled under the soft restaurant lighting. Sarah gasped, her hands flying to her mouth in surprise. "Sarah, will you marry me?" Jack asked, his eyes searching hers for an answer. Time seemed to stand still as Sarah took in the moment, the man before her, and the future that suddenly lay wide open. A tear escaped down her cheek, but her smile was radiant. "Yes, Jack," she managed to say, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." Applause from nearby patrons who had witnessed the proposal. Jack stood up, walked around to Sarah's chair, and slipped the ring onto her finger. They embraced, a perfect picture of love and commitment forged through years of deep friendship. As they celebrated, their conversation naturally turned to plans for their future. They discussed potential wedding venues, honeymoon destinations, and even the excitement of finding a new place to call home together. Each topic was touched with laughter and dreamy contemplation, their hearts full of hope and joy for the life they were planning to build together. That night, as they walked back to their car, the city around them felt different, more welcoming, as if it were congratulating them on their engagement. The streets were quieter than usual, the breeze gentler, everything around them seemed to celebrate their commitment to each other. The evening had begun like any other they had recently enjoyed, full of laughter and dreams about the future. Sarah and Jack, newly engaged and bubbling with plans, were en route to celebrate their engagement dinner at a quaint, romantic restaurant they both adored. The city around them buzzed with life, the streets thronged with people, and cars honked cheerily, a stark contrast to the silence that would soon envelop them. As they drove through the bustling streets, Jack's hand found Sarah's, a gesture that spoke volumes of the comfort and love they shared. They were discussing potential wedding venues, lost in a world of their own, when the unexpected shattered the calm of the night. A loud crash, the screech of tires against asphalt, and then darkness. This was all Sarah could remember before she slipped into unconsciousness. A distracted driver had run a red light, crashing into their side at high speed, and in an instant, their joyous anticipation was replaced by an urgent fight for survival. When Sarah awoke, the sterile white of the hospital room was blinding. Pain enveloped her senses, and confusion clouded her mind. Tubes and wires were attached to her body, a constant beep from the monitors played a grim lullaby. Beside her, Jack sat, his face a mask of worry and fatigue, holding her hand as if letting go would mean losing her. "Jack," her voice was a hoarse whisper, barely audible. Jack's eyes, red-rimmed and weary, lit up with relief as he heard her. "Sarah, oh God, Sarah, you're awake. I was so scared I'd lost you," he choked out, the tears he had been holding back now freely flowing. "What happened?" Sarah asked, trying to piece together the fragments of her last memory. "We were in an accident. A car hit us." You've been in and out for the past 2 days, Jack explained gently, squeezing her hand, as if to reassure both her and himself that she was indeed here, alive. The news hit Sarah like a wave. The implications of the accident began to dawn on her, and a profound sense of vulnerability enveloped her. The doctors had hinted at serious injuries that could alter the course of her life. The days that followed were filled with challenges. Sarah faced surgeries and painful physical therapy sessions. Each day brought with it pain, frustration, and small victories. Through it all, Jack was her constant companion, never leaving her side for more than necessary. He was her advocate, her cheerleader, and her caretaker, managing everything from medical appointments to ensuring that Sarah had her favorite books to read. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow into the hospital room, Sarah looked at Jack, noticing the dark circles under his eyes and the weary tilt of his shoulders. "You need to rest too, Jack." "I'm going to be fine," she said softly. Jack shook his head, a small smile playing on his lips. "I'll rest when you're back home, and we're planning our wedding again. Until then, I'm here, no matter what." Sarah reached out, touching his face. "I love you." "Thank you for being my strength," she whispered. "I love you more. And I'm not going anywhere. We're in this together, remember?" "For better, for worse," Jack replied, his voice firm. The sterile walls of the hospital had become all too familiar to Sarah as days turned into weeks. Despite the pain and the slow, grueling recovery from her injuries, her spirit remained unbroken, bolstered by Jack's unwavering support and the small progresses she made each day. Yet, as resilient as she was, the journey was wearing on her, each surgery seeming more daunting than the last. One particularly challenging afternoon, after yet another surgery, Sarah lay in her hospital bed, her body weary and her mind clouded with doubts. Jack sat beside her, holding her hand, trying to offer comfort with his presence. It was during these moments that the stark reality of their situation weighed heavily on them both. "Sarah, you're doing great, okay? Every day, you're getting stronger," Jack said, squeezing her hand gently. Sarah managed a weak smile. "I know, but it feels like I'm climbing a mountain with no summit, Jack. What if I never get back to how I was?" Before Jack could respond, there was a knock at the door. A man, seemingly in his late 40s, entered the room. He was tall, with a kind face framed by graying hair, and he carried himself with a quiet confidence. Sarah and Jack looked at him, puzzled. "Hello, Sarah. I'm Dr. Michael Thompson. I've been following your case closely," the man introduced himself. His voice was calm. "I specialize in rehabilitative medicine, and I believe I can offer you some new treatment options that might improve your recovery." Sarah's interest peaked, her fatigue momentarily forgotten. "Really? What kind of options?" she asked, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. Dr. Thompson pulled up a chair and sat down. "I've been developing a program that integrates advanced physical therapy with cutting-edge technology. It's been showing promising results in cases similar to yours. I won't promise miracles, Sarah, but I believe we can improve your condition." The news was like a breath of fresh air in the stifling stagnation of her long recovery. Sarah felt a surge of renewed energy, her heart lifted by the possibility of regaining more of her former self. "Can we start soon?" she asked eagerly. "Absolutely. I'll coordinate with your current medical team and set things up. We can begin as soon as you're ready," Dr. Thompson replied, his smile warm. Over the next few weeks, Sarah began the new program under Dr. Thompson's guidance. The regimen was rigorous and often exhausting, but Sarah's spirits were buoyed by the noticeable improvements in her mobility and strength. Jack was by her side every step of the way, his admiration for her courage growing with each passing day. One afternoon, Dr. Thompson visited Sarah with a somber yet hopeful expression. "Sarah, there's something significant I need to share with you. I am your father." Sarah stared at him, a flood of confusion and shock passing over her face. "My father," she echoed, her voice a whisper, as if saying it louder might make it less true. Yes, Michael continued, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. After your mother, after she passed away, I lost you. I've been searching for you ever since. It took me years, but when I saw your name at the hospital, something inside me stirred. I had to know for sure. He paused, taking out a small envelope from his jacket. I did a DNA test discreetly. The results confirmed it. You are my daughter. Sarah felt the room spin as the reality sank in. She looked at Michael, seeing him in a new light. All these years, you were looking for me, she managed to say, her voice breaking with emotion. Yes, every single day, Michael replied, reaching out to gently hold her hand. I never gave up hope that I might find you and explain everything. To tell you about your mother, her struggles, and how much she loved you. Tears rolled down Sarah's cheeks as she absorbed his words. It's a lot to take in, she admitted, her heart heavy with the weight of her newfound reality. I know this is hard, and I'm here for you, whenever you're ready to talk or ask anything, Michael said, squeezing her hand in reassurance. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the specially adapted home that Sarah and Jack had moved into, designed to accommodate Sarah's new needs. Sarah, Jack, and Michael were gathered in the cozy living room, the walls adorned with bright, hopeful paintings that Sarah had chosen. Michael sat across from Sarah, his face a mask of solemnity, holding a small, worn-out photo album that seemed to hold more than just pictures. It held years of hidden truths. Sarah, Michael began, his voice steady despite the turmoil within, there's something about your mother, about our past, that you need to know. Sarah nodded, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. Jack took her hand, squeezing it gently, a silent pillar of support. Your mother, she suffered from a progressive condition that affected her memory and her ability to control her actions. It was devastating, and over time, it got worse, Michael explained, his eyes not leaving Sarah's. Sarah's breath caught in her throat, her other hand moving to cover her mouth as she absorbed the weight of his words. What happened to her? She managed to ask, her voice a whisper. Michael took a deep breath, the pain evident in his eyes as he continued. One day, I returned home from work to find both her and you missing. It was the most terrifying moment of my life. When I finally found her, it was too late. She had taken her own life. She was in such a dark place, and I hadn't even realized the full extent of her despair. Tears streamed down Sarah's cheeks as she listened to the tragic history of her mother. Jack moved closer, his arm wrapping around her shoulders. Michael paused, his own tears welling up. I searched for you for years, Sarah. Every clue led to a dead end. It was as if you had vanished. Until one day, I saw your name in the hospital where I started working. Something about it made me suspect, and after a discreet DNA test, the truth was confirmed. You are my daughter. The room was thick with emotion as the weight of Michael's revelation sank in. Sarah felt a torrent of emotions, grief for the mother she never knew, pain for the father who had lost so much, and a burgeoning love for the parent who had never stopped searching for her. Michael opened the photo album, showing pictures of Sarah as a baby with her mother, happy and smiling. I want you to know everything, Sarah. I want us to rebuild the years we lost, he said, his voice breaking. Sarah leaned into Jack, her emotions overwhelming her. After a few moments, she turned to Michael, her eyes filled with tears, but also with a new understanding. I want that too, Dad, she said, the word dad feeling strange but right. The next weeks were a blend of healing and discovery. Michael took an active role in Sarah's rehabilitation, his expertise as a doctor and his connection as her father creating a deep bond that supported her recovery. They spent evenings talking about the past, about her mother, and about the life Michael had hoped to have with them both. One evening, as they sat watching an old movie, Sarah realized how much had changed. The grief was still there, but so was a new family dynamic, one that was forged from the fragments of their shared past and the hopes for their future. It's strange, Sarah mused aloud, how life takes us through such painful paths only to bring us to moments like these. Michael smiled, reaching over to squeeze her hand. Yes, it is. But I believe every path has its purpose. We may not see it at the time, but in the end, our journeys bring us exactly where we need to be. Together, in the house filled with new adaptations, but also new hopes, Sarah, Jack, and Michael found a rhythm to their lives. They faced each day not just as individuals linked by circumstance, but as a family, connected by a deep, enduring love and a past that, while painful, had led them to each other. With each passing day, under Michael's attentive medical guidance and the unwavering support of Jack, her condition improved. The combined efforts of love, science, and sheer determination were paying off, allowing Sarah more freedom and less pain than she had dared hope for in the darkest days of her recovery. Sarah was in the backyard of the home she shared with Jack, taking tentative steps with the aid of her new walking device. Jack stood beside her, his face alight with pride and joy. Michael, watching from the porch, had his medical bag beside him, but today it remained closed. Today was about family, not just treatment. "You're doing great, Sarah," Jack encouraged, his voice warm with admiration. "I think you're going to outpace me on our walk soon." Sarah laughed, a sound full of life and hope. "That's the plan," she replied, feeling a surge of accomplishment with each careful step. "I couldn't have done this without you too." Michael joined them in the garden, his expression one of a father bursting with pride. "Sarah, seeing you like this, you remind me so much of your mother." She was just as determined. Sarah paused, leaning slightly against Jack, and looked at Michael. "I used to feel so angry that she left me," she confessed. "But now, understanding more about everything, about you, about her, it's like I can breathe again, without that weight on my chest." "It's never too late for new beginnings, for healing," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. He walked over and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "And there's so much ahead for us, Sarah." Their conversation drifted to the future as they sat together on the garden bench. Sarah spoke of her desire to use her experiences to help others, perhaps starting a support group for accident survivors or working with children facing challenges as she once did. Jack talked about expanding his engineering work to include designs for accessibility in public spaces, inspired by Sarah's journey. "And I'll be here, for both of you, whatever you need," Michael added, making it clear that his commitment to Sarah extended beyond her medical needs. As the afternoon sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the lawn, the trio made their way inside. The house, with its adaptations and modifications, was a physical testament to their journey, a journey from isolation and pain towards healing and community. That evening, as they prepared dinner together in the spacious, adapted kitchen, the house felt full of life. Music played softly in the background, and the aroma of cooking filled the air, mingling with their laughter and conversation. Later, as they sat down to eat, Jack raised his glass in a toast. "To new beginnings," he said, smiling at Sarah and Michael. "To family," Sarah added, her eyes glistening with tears of happiness. "And to hope," concluded Michael, his voice steady and sure. The meal passed in a warm atmosphere of shared dreams and plans. They talked about the upcoming wedding, which they decided would be held in the backyard, under the very trees that had witnessed Sarah's steps toward recovery. It would be a celebration not just of their love, but of all they had overcome and all that lay ahead.